In today's episode of the Power of Aftershow, I'm joined by Courtney Henry to talk about how AI can truly transform your marketing, but maybe not in the way you think, because AI isn't the strategy, it's the tool. The real difference maker is still clarity, knowing exactly who you're speaking to and what they need to hear. We also dive into why doing less but doing it better is often the smartest move, especially in a world that's constantly telling you to be everywhere at once. So if you're ready to simplify your approach, focus your message, and use AI in a way that actually moves the needle, this conversation is for you. So stay tuned. You've spent years building what matters. Now, with Power of After courses and elite mentorship, it's time to move forward with intention and impact. This is the Power of After Show. Let's get started. Well, hello. It's great to have you here, Courtney, with us today. We are just going to learn so much, I'm sure, from you, and delighted. We are on different coasts as I'm recording this, which is fun, always fun with the time zones. But it's great to be able to do this. we can have a wonderful video conversation. So, Courtney, I like to give my guests the opportunity to introduce themselves a little bit with your background. I've already said a little bit in the intro, but why don't you give us a little taste of that, and then we're going to just dive right on in.
Sure. Thanks so much, Deborah. I'm really excited to be here chatting with you today. And my background is it's interesting. I think the easiest way to say it is probably to say I'm a brand and marketing strategist and founder of GrowthMinded. And in human words, what that really means is I help businesses and brands get really clear on who's their ideal audience, why they love them the most, and then how to connect with them in order to convert that into sales and advocacy. But when I think about who I am, I realize it's so much bigger than that. And it's taken me a long time in my life to get to that point. Um, I have had a 20-year career in advertising and marketing, working in really large ad agencies on flashy TV shoots and print shoots and all the things. And then realized that I loved what I did, but not necessarily in the environments that I was working in. So I went along, created my own business, burnt out multiple times, both in agencies and the business I built.
Mhm.
And when I think about, halftime, I think about, okay, I'm 40, I have 2 kids, I've built a business, I've already lived so much life, but there's still so much life ahead of me. And I think about, okay, there's so much that I wish I could share with other people that are in the same position of how to take charge of the work that you're doing and do it in a way that you love and that makes a meaningful difference. So,
That's wonderful. It's there's a lot of people at your stage. And
mhm.
and I like that you said you burnt out both of working with a company and with your own business, because running your own business is no small thing. It's
Yeah.
work. Um, and it's hard to shut it off. And you've got 2 kids. There's a lot you balance in your life. But work is one of those things. And most of us think we need to work. We love our work and we need to work. And it's good for our kids to see that too. We want them to see a work ethic
Yeah.
that we have established. And what we do, we get up and we do our work, and we just, we balance life, and there's a lot of life to balance. So good for you. I think that's really, really important as a woman in today's society too. And we talk to both women and men on this podcast, of course. But it's a very good to hear your story and your background. And I loved it that you said it was just all these splashy TV, all of this stuff, because that gets old, you know,
Yeah.
very fast, very fast. In any sort of, it's entertainment. It gets old and it's pressures. There's a lot of that. So anyway, well, you've worked with a lot of these companies, and what's the biggest mistake, if you were going to kind of go back and sum things up, what do you see as the biggest mistake? Because we're going to talk about AI as well, but let's
Yeah.
talk about the mistakes first, because sometimes you can see little areas that the AI can fill. So what do you see?
Such a great question. So actually, that little chat at the intro is bringing me back to I remember being 8 or 9 years old, taking a trip to Boston. I'm from Connecticut originally. And we were walking around downtown Boston. We saw the big Hancock Tower. I was with my parents and my younger brother. I'm one of four. And then we walked through the North End. And on the way, we're walking through the waterfront and we see all these fancy condos on the side. And I remember looking at my parents and saying, I'm going to work in one of these corner offices someday, and I'm going to wear a power suit. Now, my mom was an elementary school teacher and my dad was a pharmacist.
Okay.
And spoiler alert, in my family, there's a guidance counselor, an FBI agent, and a Marine. So there's not many people in corporate out of me and my siblings and my parents. But sure enough, my my senior year of college, I ended up getting an internship at the top of the Hancock Tower in an ad agency. And then I started working there. I actually worked there twice. I was what they called a boomeranger, meaning you were there, you left, and they recruited you back.
Okay.
So I worked with Bank of America, Merrill Lynch, Liberty Mutual, Bombardier Jets, Planet Fitness, so many different brands, NFL, Disney, at different agencies. And I think the biggest mistake, and this ties back to what I wanted to do as a kid and now realize as a 40-year-old I don't want to do, is that marketing was really performative. Marketing was
Wow.
really about bringing people in the door, but then what happens when they're in the door? So,
Ah.
working with these big brands, there was a lot of vanity metrics and URLs. And I'm not to say these brands are necessarily, there's a lot of good that they're doing too, right?
Mm-hmm.
But when you think about and what I saw in the land of advertising and marketing is that there was a lot of doing things, but do we know if the things we're doing is creating an impact? And then we get people in the door, but then what happens to them? We've gotten them to jump on a sales call, to open an account, to get inside your storefront. But then what's happening to keep them, to retain them, and turn them into advocates? So when I think
Wow.
about what I see across both big businesses and small businesses, is that so many are thinking, how do I get more people to know my name? How do I convert that person? But
Mm-hmm.
what true businesses are succeeding and what I've seen in this whole 20-year career that I've had is it's the ones that are doing some of the quiet behind the scenes work of once I get someone in the door, how do I treat them? How does my entire team and staff know how to serve them? How do I take moments of that life cycle and prime them to be an advocate or an affiliate for us? That's really what the most successful small and big businesses are doing. And I think that that's so often overlooked when we think about marketing. We think about ads,
Mm-hmm.
we think about what we see on TV or on social media. But the truth is, what's really actually building a big, strong brand and a really sustainable business are all those quiet in between moments that people don't think about and aren't as flashy.
It's the personal touch.
Yes, yes,
And
it's the
that's,
connection.
yeah, it's the connection. And that's what AI does not fill. And it's really, really important for people to realize that, because there's just a panic out there. Oh no, it's going to take away my job. Well, it is going to take away some jobs. I agree. Or what it's going to do is it makes some of your jobs just a lot easier. You're able to
Yes.
concentrate on different areas, but the personal touch does not go away. People like that human touch.
Mhm.
That's really a great, great point. And, I think there's that panic, and that would be a big mistake to get stuck on that of just
Yep.
think, you don't need that. So now everyone's kind of talking about this. I mean, AI and marketing, and I use a lot of different tools and, selectively, but what are they kind of getting wrong with the AI? And are there things that they can do right or are doing right that they should build on?
Yes. So, it's interesting in that I have so many thoughts about this. And I'm
Good.
positive my thoughts about this are probably going to be different 6 months from now, a year from now, 10 years from now.
Mhm.
So I remember when people first started talking about AI in the realm of supporting your work in marketing, whether it's from content creation, from strategizing, from video production, from developing decks to present. I specifically remember a colleague of mine that I was working with about 3 years ago, and he was using it everywhere. And I was like, what is this thing? And I was very against it because I thought, my intellectual property is what is my strength. I'm a great writer. I love speaking. I love teaching. How can AI help me? Well, I eventually started to dabble in it and realized it's actually really good if you know how to use it. And so I think there's two misunderstandings that I see, and that I think people can start to shift their thinking about to really harness the power of AI instead of being scared of it.
Mhm.
Number one is that um, AI is going to replace all jobs. Um, what I see from a marketing perspective is that AI is simplifying a lot of people's jobs so that they can focus on what matters. And what
Yes.
I'm seeing bubble up and matters is that critical thinking, that discernment, that judgment, or even good taste. So AI can put out a lot of content. It
Mhm.
can tell you specific strategies
Mm.
and what to do. It can't tell you, is that really what's right for your brand, for your
Mm.
customers?
Right.
Does that align with everything else you have going on? Can your sales team, can your service team, can your customer service team, depending on what type of business it is, whether you're manufacturing, your B2B software as a system, can your infrastructure actually support and does it make sense for you to do what AI is telling you? And so that myth number one that AI is going to replace all jobs, what I see it doing is it's actually creating the jobs that need to be human in terms of being able to take some really good suggestions and to say, yes, that's great. That's exactly what we need. Or thanks, but no thanks. That's not actually going to be the right fit and being confident in that decision. Because the best brands and businesses I'm seeing are not the ones doing everything. They're the ones that are figuring out which 20% of things they're doing is driving the 80% of results. And that's hard to do. And you still need people to do that. So that's number one. Number two is that most people, if you go on LinkedIn, everyone's talking about AI slop. And for the longest time, people would say, well, not for the longest time, they're still saying
Mhm.
this. I can tell when AI writes something. I can too now, usually,
Mhm.
but sometimes not always.
Mhm.
And I think that folks assume that if you're using AI, that it is, there's a big moral and ethical dilemma that comes with this. I've chatted with lots of experts in this area because I've grappled with how do I use it. Where I've arrived at it as a consultant and a small business, I use it as a junior team member to do some of
Mhm.
the work to get to an initial draft that really needs me to look it over after I've given it the inputs and say, we need to change this, we need to drop that, or for ideation and research, right? But I think assuming that anything AI puts out is not of good quality is really unfortunate because if you use the tool in a way that you know what questions to ask of it, what prompts to put in, and then you put
Mhm.
your critical thinking skill on, I actually think it can take your work to the next level because it's opening you up to different possibilities. I still think security, safety, um, independence, all of those are big question marks in the realm of
Mhm.
AI and how you use it. I think you can use it smart and in a way that enhances your professional and your personal life
Mhm.
without giving up too much decision making and authority to it. So I think that's that fine line you have to, you know, travel. But I think overall, learning how to use it in a way that is discerning and is in alignment with what your brand or your business or your team's goals are, I think that's really, really important for anyone who wants to move ahead in the next few months, years, decades. I think it's here to stay. And so we need to figure out how to harness it.
Yes. Wow. Yeah, definitely. And I think you said a couple things in here in important prompts. And important, it needs to be your intellectual property and ideas to begin with. You
Mhm.
can gain some ideas, and as an assistant as well. I mean, it's like a virtual assistant. It's pretty amazing. I used to pay
Yeah.
somebody to, to summarize articles and things for me, and hey, it's easy now. It's
Yeah.
just putting in
You
a
know
putting in
how
a document.
Yeah, sometimes I think about it, I'm sure listeners can relate to this, and maybe you
Mhm.
can relate to this to some extent too. Um, we're so busy. We have so many
Yes.
decisions to make every day.
Hmm. Right.
So, I don't know if you've heard the story about how Steve Jobs used to wear, like, love him or hate him, he used to wear the black turtleneck and the jeans
Same
every
things.
day
Yeah.
because he didn't want to have to take up the mental capacity to make that
Yep.
decision, right?
Right. Right.
So I'm awful about outfits. But what I've learned about AI is that when it comes to work things, it can sometimes reduce that cognitive load so
Hmm.
that I'm not having to fire at 150% for every little decision. I'm able to fire at that 200% for the decisions that
Mm.
matter the most, that my clients are coming to me for, that I really need to be able to dig deep on, as opposed to every individual piece that crosses your desk or that,
Right.
comes up in your timeline in any given day. So I think given how saturated this world is for all of
Hmm.
us and we're
Hmm.
all being pulled in a million directions personally and professionally, I think opening up that bandwidth can be really, really helpful if you know what to focus on.
Right. And I like that, taking away that cognitive work and heaviness. Um, but also, and when we're talking specifically about marketing, people are like asking, like, okay, I can imagine them asking. In fact, I ask some of these same things. What other marketing technique can I use, and what can I build on? But what you're saying is basically, we still need to come up with main ideas and
Yeah.
let AI help us expand those or reduce those. I use it a lot with, concise,
Yes.
cut the words down, cut this is too long. This needs to be shorter, and it will help with that extremely. It's extremely good, extremely fast, and it'll end up knowing your voice. But it's important that it knows your voice, whatever tools you make. I have a custom GPT now that I can, I put in my books and I put in my
That's
material, so
awesome.
it knows my voice. And sometimes then it'll ask me, of course, and anybody that's used this have gotten these back. Oh, do you want it gentler? Do you want it funnier? Do you want it, in any of these ways? And you're thinking, okay, what's going to really sound like me? So, you experiment with it a little bit. So, you talk about marketing as a mindset. Part of that is the same thing, and how we're using our tools is that mindset, because that's a growth mindset. Not to cut it off, is to say, I can do this, I can experience this. So, if you're not thinking of yourself, if you're an entrepreneur, if you're in your business for yourself, you are a marketer. You have to
Yep.
market. You just have to market, or you will not work. So, what sort of marketing as a mindset do you propose?
I'm so glad you brought that up because I was going to bring it up as it relates to AI and marketing tactics too. So, the reason that um, I talk about marketing as a mindset is because so often I have worked with businesses and brands, whether big or small, and they come to me and they say, "What should we do?" And then the first thing I say, "Well, who's your audience?"
Yes.
And they have a hard time answering that.
Mm,
And the interesting thing is, I work more often with people not saying, you should choose 3 paid ads, a YouTube channel, a
mm,
sponsorship of the local AHL state arena, and a print ad. Instead, I work with them to say, okay, what problem are you solving? Who
mhm,
has this problem? Where are they when they have this problem? Who are they talking to? Where are
mm,
they when they need that solution? What objections do they have? What do they need to know to be true in order to trust your brand? And where that mindset comes in is so often it's easy for brands to think our marketing is about us. It is about Disney. It is about, Stanley water bottles. It is about the local country day school, when in reality, your marketing is about the people you're solving the problems for, right? And
Wow.
so when people start to make that shift, and I find that it's also whether you're a marketing professional in a large multi-hundred person marketing department for an international brand to a solopreneur, you get really stuck when you start thinking about having to talk about yourself. But when you
Mhm.
shift the mindset into someone out there has this problem or this desire, this is how we're
Mhm.
solving it. This is where I
Great.
need to be to meet them when they have that problem or that desire. It completely shifts from a blank page of what should I do to then you realize, oh, if I were that person, I
Yes.
might be talking to this friend, or maybe I'm talking to my doctor, or maybe I'm going into Google, or these days, Claude or Gemini or ChatGPT and asking it
Right.
a question. What are the questions I'm asking?
Mm.
So when I think about marketing as a mindset, I think of it as shifting from I need to sell myself to I'm
Mhm.
helping and serving somebody. Who is that person? I need to know them better than anything. Because one, especially on the topic of AI, this was important before AI, but it's especially important now. AI can't tell you who your ideal client or customer is. You need to know that
Mm-mm.
going in. So that's one of those
Yes.
things that you need to know. You need to have had the conversations.
Right.
Otherwise, it can take you in a million directions. And any of those could work, but it might not
Mhm.
work for your business or your brand if it's
Right.
not the right fit for you. So you need that if you're going to use technology. But two, you need it to be like make sure that you're optimizing your resources. I see so many businesses wasting time and money and energy trying to do all the things when the reality is you might be able to do two things to do it really well because that's
Mhm.
all that matters to your audience. So my thought is as soon as we make that shift about the mindset, everything downstream becomes so much easier and more effective because we're actually thinking about the job our marketing has to do, not a function within a department or a budget line.
Right. And the way you focused on that, I think it's so great because it's exactly, if you've listened or read the book Story Brand and Don Miller, this
Yes,
is
yes, I've read it.
your customer. They are the hero. You are just the guide. So the focus is there. You want them to succeed. And I think that takes away fear too. You're thinking, oh, I hope this is the right thing or what are people going to think about what I say? Oh, no, you want them to be successful. What are you doing to help them on their journey? And that's such a great, great mindset in marketing. It should drive everything. What is going to help them the most? And you know what? I have to constantly think about this as well, even in any little ads I put out, anything that videos. Okay, how is it going to elevate someone that's watching this? How is it
Yeah.
going to capture their attention to help them on their journey? And that's a marketing, really a gem of a principle to be able to remember. Yes.
And I think, one other thing that I think is really important in
Hmm.
today's day and age, and we're all guilty of it to some extent,
Hmm.
and it's a reminder for myself too,
Hmm.
is that when I try to distill down marketing into the simplest form,
Hmm.
especially for I think smaller teams. Sometimes it's easier for bigger teams, but smaller teams it's hard because you're wearing so many hats. And
Yes.
like you said, like a small business owner is
Mm.
a marketer. They have
Yes.
to, serve that function even if they have someone in that function within their business.
Mm-hmm.
Is to think about it as being just a really kind, considerate, empathetic human. So I like to
Mm.
have my clients think about if I had to walk a mile in my client's shoes, what would that look like? And then that fills
Mm.
in a lot of gaps and answers for
Right.
me.
Right.
And so, where in the one hand, I believe in making our jobs easier where we can with things like AI also think
Hmm.
marketing, the need to bring it back to being human is more important than ever. Because at the end of the day, what it is human psychology and how do we feel and how do we make decisions and who do we tell? And going back to that idea of small business owner being a marketer, I'm just thinking of an experience I had last week. We have a new puppy that we got.
Oh.
And, and he went to the groomer for the second time last week. And now this groomer, I found out about her through the local dog food store. She actually rents a little space in the back. So there was no digital interaction. There was no mailer to my home. I happened to be in the store buying food.
Right.
I saw some signage. People advocated for her. I said, great.
Good.
So I've taken him twice now. We get videos every time that he's at the groomer showing how much he loves it. He comes home with a different bow tie for the holiday. My 2 boys are in love with it. And I have found myself recommending her to everyone who has a dog. And that
Oh,
was because of the way she's treated me, the way she's made it fun for my family. Most people would say that's not marketing, but that entire experience, each of those touch points that I know the dog is having fun, she
yes.
communicates clearly with me, she texts me when he's ready, we get a fun little bow tie, which is like the novelty of it.
Right.
That's so simple. But the
Mhm.
experience she's created is we all look forward to the day where the dog goes to the groomer. And then I'm telling everyone that she's fabulous. That's the most powerful form of marketing that there is.
Yeah.
And so if she can do it, anybody can do it.
Yeah. Oh, that's so cool. I love that illustration. The moment you say new puppy, I'm thinking it sounds like a lot of work.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
never gave enough credit to pet parents. I
Yes.
have 2 kids of my own and yeah. Do you have
Oh,
pets?
it's another child. Oh, yes, we have a little dog. Our sons are pretty much launched and out, but yes, we have little Amelia, who's a combination between a Jack Terrier and a Chihuahua. She's a little thing. She thinks she's huge, but yeah, she is like another little person. Anytime you go out of town, you have to have somebody care for her, and she says, and yeah, it's really amazing. I think she's wonderful for my husband. I think all men need a dog, pretty much. I think
So,
it's really good for them. But she's got him, all,
my
charmed.
husband was a little against it. We'd been promising the boys, though, for years, and
Yeah.
he's my husband's best friend now, and my husband
Yes.
does a lot of special things. So our dog's name is Slapshot. I have
Oh,
2 boys that are hockey players, and the boys named him. He's an Aussie
cute.
Mountain Doodle. So Slapshot and my husband Josh are best buds now.
Oh, how cute. Doodles are so sweet. We have 2 kids with doodles, and they are such sweet dogs. They're very needy, but they're very, very sweet dogs.
Yeah.
They are very,
We
very needy. So,
yeah, we have a
anyway,
3rd child right now. His
yes.
name is Slapshot.
I can say that as a mom. I know needy kids. Anyway, well, you burnt out. Let's talk about burnout a little bit because and the reasons for that and you kind of needed now to start selling yourself. What changed at this point in your life because you're still raising family and you're still running a business. What
Mhm.
changed? What things did you put into place to help you not burn out?
I wish I had I do have one easy word to sum it up, but I'm gonna have to tell a little bit of a story first because
Okay.
I didn't find that word for a little while.
Mhm.
The first time I burnt out, I've probably burnt out many, many times in my life, but the first time I burnt out in my professional life, it was the end of 2016. I was working on a new business that our agency had won, and
Mhm.
we had 2.5 months to launch a huge campaign in Times Square because they're one of the biggest sponsors for the Times Square New Year's Eve.
Mhm.
And we didn't have enough staff.
Mhm.
And I was working 20-hour days, going home,
Uh,
brushing my teeth, showering, and making it back to the office, which in some ways was like living the glamorous ad agency life. On the one hand, I
yeah.
was like, I'm
Mhm.
living this crazy,
Mhm.
glamorous life.
Yeah.
And then on the other hand, I was like, oh, this can't be right.
Yeah.
I remember my boss at the time, he's fabulous, but I remember him saying, you know, um, there's no one that works here in senior leadership that doesn't have major anxiety and doesn't have to like get treated for it. And there's nothing against that. I myself
Mhm.
have that.
Right, right.
Um, so I thought it was just like a badge of honor that you had to wear.
Yeah, yeah.
And then it was a few days before Christmas. I finally had a team that was hired. So I had a team under me that was a team of junior women and all in their 20s. And it was 9 o'clock at night on a Tuesday night. And we're taking a call with my client. And we were in the final edits of the TV campaign that was going to be launching. She was going to be out the next morning because she was going in for a planned C-section with her second child. And I'd asked her, who should we send the final cuts to for approval in your absence? And she said, well, I'm going into the OR at 9. I'll be out at 11. Send them to me. I want to see them first.
Oh my gosh.
And I remember looking, I was horrified. And this is one of those, like, the client's always right, but then I'm a 30-year-old executive in my office with three 20-something women, and they all
Yeah.
look at me. And I was like, no, I'm sorry. I need to send it to someone else. And she kind of fought me on it, but I was like, I'm setting an example.
Mhm.
I chatted with my boss, who happened to be a male and was fabulous. And he was like, that is not okay. We're not doing that. But then as I saw the rest of the agency swirl around me of like, this is just how it works,
Mhm.
I thought, I can't do this anymore. And so actually 2 days later, I took a leave of absence. And then
Wow.
I ended up leaving that agency. They saved a spot for me, and I just decided, you know what? I'm not going to go back there.
Mhm.
I ended up working at an in-house agency on some really big names. Later that year, I was pregnant with my first, and I found myself up till 1 or 2 in the morning at night doing work every single night. And I thought, okay. And then I promised myself I would never return from a maternity leave again.
Mm.
Tried to do all these, start all these different businesses on the side, run coach, yoga instructor, and none of those worked because they weren't a passion of mine necessarily.
Mhm.
I like to be the one on the yoga mat taking the class from the instructor. I don't like to be the one teaching it.
Teaching, yep. Mhm.
So, long story short,
Mhm.
I ended up building over COVID. I found out I was pregnant with my second son, still working full time, and said, okay, this is my shot.
Mm.
So I built a consultancy. And thankfully, by the time my maternity leave was up, I'd actually replaced my corporate income. So I went full force with it, which was great until it wasn't, until I built the actual agency I ran from both those other 2 times.
Mm.
So where this lands me to in terms of burnout is I had to repeat the same patterns over and over again to realize that the burnout wasn't actually any external circumstance. It was the way I was giving myself permission
Wow.
to show up. And that's really hard. And this has been years and years and years of undoing that. I can
Wow.
thankfully say I've made so much progress, but
Mhm.
that one word that I had to acknowledge and accept that's made the shift for me is choice. I
Wow.
never
Okay.
thought I had a choice in my agency and corporate career. I thought I just had to do what was expected of me.
Mhm.
I never thought I had a choice in my personal life to say, you know what, I'm going to pass on that event.
Yeah.
I ended up using that as the word choice as a word of the year a couple years ago. And it was so important. I stretched it out to the second year
Wow.
because I slowly learned that I had choice and I had agency, and it was on me to give myself permission to do things. No one else is going to say, sure, you have my permission to go do something different. I needed my own permission. And so that is a really hard journey. If anyone is at that point, I would say, please don't just tell yourself, I'm going to wait till this is done and figure it out. Know that burnout is usually in my experience, it's an after effect of some of the pressures we put on ourselves, and maybe stopping and pausing and saying, what type of work do I want to do? How do I want to show up? What do I want my day to look like? And know that you have the choice to do that, even if you work in a business for someone else, if you're an employee and not a business owner, whether you're a mom or not a mom, you have the choice to build the experience that you want.
Yeah.
And there are ways you can do that without having to
Mhm.
fully, shift the course of your ship if that's where you are.
Wow. That is so important. And that I hope that that's going to be a big takeaway today. I think because of those that are mid-career, have time. I'm sorry, all of a sudden I've got these allergies and they're just
No
coming up
worries.
at me. Try not to sniff. Anyway, but that is so important to realize that we have those choices, and sometimes we're afraid. We're just
Mhm.
afraid to, do anything different, and That's really, really important to build up that confidence and that courage. It takes courage. And courage is only built and confidence is only built when that muscle is exercised. And you said you had to go over and over again. A lot of times we have to do the same thing over and over and over again to really learn it, right? It's like, oh, I thought I learned this before. But, it's a life principle. So
Yes.
yes.
When
Uh-huh.
you say it's a muscle that needs to be developed, it needs to be developed and it takes a long time to develop it. It's a lot of reps and then it needs to be maintained.
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
you know, people ask me all the time, what was the hardest part of building your business or what surprised you the most? And I always say, it wasn't the business stuff. My undergrad was in business and marketing. I have an MBA with a concentration in marketing. It wasn't any of the nuts and bolts of building a business, it was the personal development. So that for me, it has demanded so much focus and consistency on positive self-talk, consistent conscious effort to really get clear on who I was, what I believe in, and show up. And then this relates back to the topic of marketing too, whether you're a big business or a solopreneur. But as we're talking about burnout, something that this is really not a fun, flashy thing to say, but more than half the time, bless you, the success in a business is being consistent. And that the most successful businesses are also the most sustainable businesses. And so I think the only way to truly be sustainable is to know yourself, to know what you stand for, know what you like to do, what you don't like to do, have confidence in that, and create choices around that. Because it that clear understanding of where you want to go, even if it's just where you want to go in the next week, that is really what's going to be the most important thing to keeping you on track and getting you from point A to point B. And so, wherever you can make your life or your work more sustainable, that means you can be more consistent, which
Mhm.
equals success over the long term. To me, I think that that's been a really important mental shift is not how much can I cram into this week, it's how consistent can I be working towards my vision in weeks, years, decades even.
Right, right. That is such great advice, great applicable advice that hopefully everybody was, yeah, these allergies all of a sudden. When you get something that all
Yep.
of a sudden it just starts going anyway.
No worries, no apologies needed.
I've tried to mute myself if I had to sneeze. Anyway, um, so let's talk about, because we've talked about um, creativity. We've talked about a lot of the AI now, not being afraid of it and how you're using it, keeping our human voice, which is very, very important. But something I want to touch on is just something very, very fun because I've been a part of the arts for a number of years, and I've seen lots of things across the country. I used to run showcase rooms and I showcased, and that's how I got booked all around the country. But you came back to Irish step dancing, and I've seen this, and it's so much fun. I mean, it is just to see those dancers and with the footwork and everything. But that's you kind of came back to that. So, what is your background in that? And and does that help you right now deal with maybe even some of the stress and what's next? And you're 40, you got two kids, you're running your ad agency, you're doing all of that. So let's talk about that a little bit and the importance of that in your life.
Yeah. Talk about a niche sport. I grew up, I am of Irish descent,
Okay.
but I was the only one besides one of my cousins who did Irish step dancing growing up. And I did it from about the age of 8, which was like a year before Riverdance came out, if
Yes.
anyone's familiar with that, all the way up until I was 17. And then I left for college. So back when I danced, and I danced competitively, I made it to Open Championship level, which is the top level in Irish dance. I was super passionate about it. I would have continued dancing, but it wasn't commonplace to continue dancing after college back when I was dancing.
Hmm.
Now they have these 22 or 23 and over categories, and there are people that are still dancing that are, 36 in that category.
Wow.
There are then people who either started as an adult or came back to dance, and they are in an adult category. So I didn't even know that was a thing until I had my first son and I signed him up for Irish dancing
Oh,
after
good.
the pandemic. And I was talking to a coach of mine, and it was actually like a nutritionist. And we were talking about things we love to do for fun. And she's like, "You're so zeroed in on business and motherhood. Like, what do you like to do for fun?" And I was like, "Well, I loved Irish dancing." She's like, "Well, you should see if there's classes where your son is taking." And sure enough, they had an adult class.
Uh,
And let me tell you, I signed up and I was sucked right back in.
oh, how
So
much fun is
now
that?
neither of my sons dance, but I dance a few times a week. I dance at the New England Regional Championships. I dance at the National Championships. So I went to Texas 2 years ago. I'll be at Orlando this July. And what I can tell you is that it has given me an identity outside of some of the really challenging identities of running a business and being a mom. So it reminds me and broadens my scope of who I am. And I don't want to say my worth, but just what I like and what I
Mhm.
contribute and my community and friends. And so that broader perspective, I think, is really, really important for anyone in any profession at any stage of life, because you're so much more than what you do behind the computer every day or, when you're making dinner or telling your kids to do your homework. Um, so the first lesson that is do what you love. And it doesn't matter if it doesn't make
Mhm.
sense to anyone else. If it brings you joy, do it. I mean, if you've seen Irish dancers, even the adults, they have these elaborate dresses, they wear wigs and makeup, and
Yeah.
it's pretty jarring if you've never been to an Irish dance competition, but it's also a community I love to be a part of. And when I'm
Yeah.
with those people, I just feel like I'm at home. And so that's been an important lesson. And then second, it I already alluded to this, but it's really helpful to think about your goals in years instead of days or
Mm.
weeks or even months. So I have a habit of going out really hard. And when I'm working on, right now, I'm prepping for nationals in July. I had a tendency to work really hard towards something because I'm an all or nothing person. And then I'd get injured. And then I'd have to sit out the next one. And I've realized that me being an adult Irish dancer, there's no timeline. It's not that once I get to college, I have to stop. I've only got so many years to make it to this level.
Right.
For me now, it's about how long can I extend being able to do this activity I love, which means really thinking about this long term rather than the short term. It means not burning the candle at both ends. It means working smarter, not harder, and just keeping perspective about it and enjoying the journey. Because what I realized is prior to this coming back to Irish dance, I lived my life in the when I get to this point, I can relax. And this is really reminding me that actually it's about every day they experience in the journey. That is really important. It's also taught me you're never too late and you're never too old. If I can do this, people can do lots, whatever their heart desires. So,
Great point, because you're 40. Let's just add on another decade or two and start thinking, okay, how can I keep doing this? Pace yourself. You've
hmm
got to pace yourself.
yeah,
And that's really, really important. That's why mentorship is important. All of that is really important with, you went into your classes, you were pacing yourself with your classes and and how you're preparing. How much fun is that? So sorry, I got all these sniffles. Anyway,
no, nice.
I know it's just like the allergy attacks. I tell you what, every single tree in our property has blooms on it right now.
Bloomed.
Yeah,
It's the time
and
of year.
I took my allergy stuff this morning, but my gosh. Anyway, okay, so when we're looking ahead, let's kind of start wrapping this up. You said some wonderful things. First of all, AI is not going to discover who your ideal client is or who you're speaking to. You need to discover that yourself. You need to still have your own voice. That's very important. AI can enhance it. It can help you with that. It can help you with the tools, things that they can do really fast. I use it all the time for video, for extractions, for rewriting areas. It'll take one main thought and then give me ideas for a bunch of ads, but I have to edit. It's very important for me to have, my voice in that. So, but it can do a lot of that. Um, can do visuals. It can do all sorts of things, but you need to give those correct prompts. Extremely important to give the correct prompts. I talk about this a lot in Power of After. In fact, AI has grown quite a bit more even, but it gives you the basic thoughts and you can go on from there. Because I say in that book, it's going to continue to grow, but these are some basics. Don't be afraid of it. Keep going on it. So now when you're talking to people about what's next, what's one thing that you could leave people with today? If they were going to apply one thing, if they were going to say, okay, I just listened to this great podcast and now what can you say, do this today, do this tomorrow, do this week. What can you give to people to really take away from today?
hmm I think I have one professional and one personal.
Okay.
Professional on the element of marketing, you probably have a lot of assumptions. You probably think you know your customer. You probably think you know where they hang out. You probably think you know what they want to say. If you haven't done the research, if you haven't had the conversations, if you hadn't stepped back and walked a mile in their shoes, I would say right now, before using AI, before putting out another post, before writing another email, if you are a business owner or work in business and are looking to create awareness and consideration and demand, I would say put down the electronics and go talk to someone face to
Ooh,
face. Just have a conversation. It,
yeah.
it can be over Zoom if it needs to, totally fine, but just sit back and listen. Have a conversation
Mhm.
with someone. Look for clues and understand what's their experience and how can I help meet them where they are.
Mhm. Right,
I think that's probably valuable whether or not you work in marketing or consider yourself a marketer. I
right,
think that we don't do that enough. And I think stopping, listening, observing, metabolizing that information, and then realizing, okay, my job is not to do all the things, it's to do the 1 to 2 things that matter coming out of that conversation.
right,
That is the most effective for getting the biggest bang for your buck in business and
right.
in marketing. And then personally, something that has been really important for me as I think about where I want to go from halftime is
Yeah.
I work with a coach and we've talked a lot about fuel types. So we all make decisions. We all say yes. We all say no to certain things, but we don't all have the same fuel types driving those decisions. And what I've learned through lots and lots of personal work is that my whole first half, my fuel type was stress, guilt, and shame. I felt like I needed to do something. And something that it makes a lot of sense why my life looked the way it did. And it was stressful and it felt hard and it felt heavy because I felt like I should do it and I needed to do it. And I didn't have that choice or that agency we talked about. Something I've been shifting to as I enter my second half is operating from the fuel type of joy or desire. That's
Ah,
where the dance comes in. That's where working on the types of clients and projects I want to and running my business not the way every agency is run, but the way I think it makes sense to be run to best serve my clients happens.
mm, mm.
And let me tell you that when your fuel source is different, your results are really different. So as you're exploring what comes next, check in and see which fuel type you're burning, what source you're burning. Is it fear, guilt, and shame, or is it joy? Is it desire? The more joy and desire you can have, the more fun, the easier, and the more sustainable that shift will be. It's counterintuitive, but once you experience the difference, you're like, I see the difference. I can feel the difference. And I
Yeah,
think
to
that's
feel
what it's
that.
all about.
Yes. Oh, great advice. Really good advice because that's longevity. You will have longevity. You'll be much happier. You'll be much better to be around. Oh my goodness.
Yes.
You know,
Yes.
that's a big deal too. You kind of want to have everybody go, oh, I like being around. I don't want to be, out of the house anyway. Well, that's great. How does everyone get a hold of you? I will put links. There's an article that comes with this. We will have, and there's going to be show notes. And so people will be able to click on, your website and how to get a hold of you. But I like you to verbalize that as well, how people can get a hold of you. And, so that would kind of end with that. Yeah, go ahead.
Awesome. Thanks. So people can find me at growthmindedstrategy.com. And actually, if you go to growthmindedstrategy.com/guide, I actually have an outline of what I see the 5 most common gaps in people's marketing strategies are and how to fix them. So
Good.
folks can definitely grab that. But then if you want to have a conversation or just be connected, you can find me on LinkedIn. I'm Courtney Holloway Henry. You'll see me as the founder of GrowthMinded on there. And I love connecting with folks, with, other women, moms, business owners. I find that in this very connected world, the more I can connect with the humans behind all of these digital profiles, the more ahas I have, both personally and professionally. So I welcome anyone reaching out.
How sweet. I mean, that's a wonderful invitation for people to be able to do that, whether or not they will, but it's really important. So thank you so much, Courtney. This was an enlightening conversation, and I took a lot of notes. Of course, I always do, to be able to write articles and to be able to gain some of the insights, and then I usually expand on those a bit. But that's a lot of fun to be able to do. You're delightful. You have a great business. Really, I like sharing your background as well of burning out and how important it is for us to find joy in what we do. Um, and uh, and even with your little story about a new puppy, about you know what is working in marketing. Sometimes it's just that word of mouth, and people, it's like I'm so excited about the extra service, but that groomer also did the extras. They went
Yeah.
the extras, doing the videos, and that's very unique. I've never known anybody doing the videos, but very smart. And
The
but
same thing as the daycare. They want videos
yes,
of their children.
they
I
want.
didn't even think I'd be a pet parent who wanted videos of my puppy, but apparently I
Yep.
do. It
Yes,
it
yes.
worked.
And one of the places I take our little dog, because her nails in the front nails get really long
Mm,
anyway.
yeah.
But I can see what they're doing too. They've got the windows, and so I can watch. I have to be careful because then she'll get all upset because she'll
Yeah.
see me. The dog will, just like a kid. But it's nice. Then what they're doing and where they're at. So I think that's really important. So well, thank you so much. Thank you for all of those who are listening, who have hung with us the whole time. Hopefully, you've gained some real nuggets, not only of content, but of lifestyle and of decisions on personal goals, also just values, personal values, because you've got, your family and how important your health is. Oh, I'm going to sneeze again. Hopefully I wouldn't sneeze right in the microphone. So thank you so much for joining us today, Courtney, and thank you all for listening. And I look forward to being with you every single week on the Power of After Show. And I'll look forward to being with you again next time. So bye-bye for now.
Thanks so much, Deborah. I had a blast.
Thanks so much for spending time with me today. I love bringing you insights to help you maximize your skills, resources, and experience at mid-career and beyond, so that you can make your next chapter your most impactful and purposeful yet. I'm Deborah Johnson, and I can't wait to be with you again next time on the Power of After Show.